I never thought I'd discover the truth about my fiancé while hiding behind a ficus plant at the country club. But life has a way of revealing its ugliest secrets in the most unexpected places. My name is Mallory, and until exactly 47 minutes ago, I was living what I thought was my perfect life. CFO of my family's company at 28, engaged to a supposedly wonderful man, and planning what everyone called the wedding of the season. Funny how quickly perfect can shatter. I'd only stepped behind the plant to take a business call. The irony of hiding from my own engagement party to discuss quarterly reports wasn't lost on me. But as I ended the call, I heard Mark's voice floating over from the terrace. "Come on, Preston. You know exactly why I'm doing this." Mark's laugh sent chills down my spine. The Montgomery fortune isn't going to inherit itself. I pressed myself against the wall, my champagne glass trembling in my hand. "But you've been with her for 2 years," Preston said. "That's commitment for a con." "Good things take time. Had to make it believable, didn't I? Her family's worth billions. 2 years is nothing compared to what I'm about to get my hands on." The champagne glass nearly slipped from my fingers. I caught it just in time, my heart pounding against my ribs. "And Mallory has no idea? Please." Mark scoffed. "She's so caught up in her spreadsheets and board meetings, she probably thinks I'm the best thing that's ever happened to her. The perfect supportive fiancé who doesn't mind that she makes more money than him." "But what if she finds out?" "She won't. I've played this perfectly. Besides, in 3 weeks we'll be married, and then it won't matter what she knows." I heard the clink of glasses, and my stomach lurched. The diamond ring on my finger suddenly felt like it was burning my skin. "Mallory, what are you doing back here?" I spun around to find my sister Amy staring at me with concern. She must have read something in my expression because she immediately stepped closer, lowering her voice. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," I whispered, grabbing her arm. "I need you to come with me now." I dragged her through the crowd of well-wishers, past my mother, who was showing off the wedding invitation designs to anyone who'd look, past Kaya, who was holding court with her usual group of socialites. We didn't stop until we reached the empty ladies' room. "Mark is conning me," I said, the words burning my throat. "He's marrying me for the money. I just heard him telling Preston everything." "What?" Amy's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" I heard every word. My voice cracked. 2 years, Amy. 2 years of my life wasted on a lie. "That son of a—" Amy started toward the door. "I'm going to kill him." I grabbed her arm. "No, wait." "Wait?" "Mallory, he's out there right now, probably schmoozing with Mom and Dad, acting like he's not planning to steal our family blind." "I know." I met my sister's eyes in the mirror. "And that's exactly why we're not going to do anything. Not yet." Amy's expression shifted as she recognized the look on my face, the same one I wore when closing million-dollar deals. "What are you thinking?" "He wants to play games?" I twisted the engagement ring on my finger. "Then let's play, but we're going to do this my way." "Mallory, 3 weeks until the wedding, Amy. That's how long he said he needs. Well, that's how long I need too." A knock at the door made us both jump. "Mallory? Amy?" It was our mother. "The photographer wants to take family photos." "Coming, Mom," I called out, quickly dabbing at my eyes with the tissue. I turned to Amy. "Not a word about this to anyone, promise me." Amy nodded slowly. "What are you going to do?" I straightened my shoulders and fixed my lipstick. "I'm going to give Mark exactly what he deserves. A wedding he'll never forget." We walked back into the party, where Mark immediately wrapped his arm around my waist, pressing a kiss to my temple. "There you are, beautiful. I was starting to worry." I smiled up at him, amazed at how easily the lies fell from his lips. "Sorry, darling. Just having a little sister chat." "Everything okay?" he asked, his concern so perfectly practiced it made me sick. "Everything's perfect," I replied, reaching up to straighten his tie. "Just perfect." And in that moment, watching him beam at our gathered family and friends, I made a promise to myself. Mark wanted to play the long game? Fine. But he was about to learn that he wasn't the only one who could be patient. The photographer called us together, and I posed with my fake smile, already plotting. 3 weeks until the wedding. 3 weeks to plan my revenge. You need to tell your parents, Noelle said, pacing across my office the next morning. Cancel the wedding. Have him arrested for fraud. Something. I kept my eyes on my computer screen, reviewing quarterly projections while my best friend had her meltdown. Not yet. I've been telling you for 2 years that something was off about him, she continued. But this is worse than I imagined. Amy, perched on the edge of my desk, spoke up. She has a plan, Noelle. And knowing my sister, it's probably brilliant and terrifying. Actually, I said, finally looking up, I need help from both of you. Noelle stopped pacing. I'm listening. Mark thinks he's the only one who can play the long game. He's about to learn differently. I pulled up a document on my screen. I've been doing some digging. Turns out our dear Mark has quite a history. Amy leaned in to look. What did you find? 3 broken engagements in the past 5 years, all to wealthy women. I clicked through the files, and each time he walked away with generous gifts before the wedding. Cars, property, investments. How did you get this information? Noelle asked, impressed. I'm a CFO. Following money trails is what I do. I smiled grimly. But here's the interesting part. He's never actually gone through with a wedding before. This is his endgame. A knock at my office door made us all jump. My assistant poked her head in. Ms. Montgomery, Mr. Cox is here to take you to lunch. Perfect timing, I said, standing up. Send him in. Are you sure about this? Amy whispered. I nodded, quickly closing the files on my computer. Just follow my lead. Mark strode in, looking every bit the successful businessman in his tailored suit. There's my beautiful bride-to-be. He kissed my cheek, then noticed my companions. Ladies, always a pleasure. The way Noelle's jaw clenched told me she was barely containing herself. I jumped in before she could speak. Mark, darling, I was just telling the girls about the wedding video idea. He raised an eyebrow. Wedding video? Yes, I want to do something special. Personal messages from everyone important in our lives. Memories, wishes for our future. I touched his arm. Preston could help coordinate it. He is your best man, after all. That's actually a wonderful idea. Mark smiled, but I caught the calculating look in his eyes. Very sentimental. I thought so too. I gathered my purse. Amy, could you help Preston with that? And Noelle, you'll handle the technical aspects? They both stared at me for a moment before Amy caught on. Of course, I'll call Preston right away. After Mark and I left for lunch, my phone buzzed with messages. Amy. Video messages? What are you up to? Noelle. Whatever it is, I'm in. That smug bastard needs to go down. At lunch, I played my part perfectly, discussing flower arrangements and seating charts while Mark pretended to care. 2 years ago, I'd thought his distraction during wedding planning was cute. Now I saw it for what it was. Complete disinterest in anything that wouldn't benefit him financially. By the way, he said, reaching across the table to take my hand. I was thinking about the prenup. Oh, don't worry about that. I cut in smoothly. Daddy's lawyers are handling everything. They're very thorough about protecting family interests. I watched his face carefully, catching the fleeting frown before his smooth smile returned. Of course, whatever you think is best, sweetheart. Back at the office, I met with Amy and Noelle in the conference room. The video messages are our Trojan horse, I explained. We'll record everyone's lovely wishes, but we'll also be gathering evidence. Preston loves to talk, especially after a few drinks. We just need to get him on camera. And if that doesn't work? Noelle asked. I pulled out my phone and played the recording from my lunch with Mark. His voice filled the room, discussing the prenup, his careful words now seeming obviously calculating. I'm recording everything, I said. Every conversation, every loving moment. By the wedding day, we'll have enough to show exactly who Mark Cox really is. Amy leaned forward. You're going to expose him at the wedding, aren't you? In front of everyone he's trying to con. I smiled, including all those wealthy potential targets he invited. That's deliciously evil, Noelle said, finally grinning. I love it. But we have to be careful, I warned. One slip and he'll know something's wrong. We have to play our parts perfectly. Don't worry, Amy said, squeezing my hand. We've got your back. Looking at my sister and best friend, I felt stronger than I had since overhearing Mark's confession. He thought I was just another Mark, too focused on spreadsheets to see his true nature. He was about to learn just how focused I could be. The flowers are exquisite, darling. My mother gushed as we walked through the florist's showroom. Mark has such wonderful taste. I smiled tightly, watching Mark charm the florist with his practiced ease. 2 weeks until the wedding, and every day was a new exercise in restraint. Speaking of taste, my cousin Kaya appeared beside us. Have you considered the burgundy roses instead? They're much more sophisticated. Mark chose the white roses, I replied, noting how Kaya's eyes followed him across the room. He says they represent pure love. Kaya's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her champagne glass. Funny, I never pictured you as the type to let a man make all your decisions. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Amy. Got something. Meet me ASAP. Excuse me, I said, already heading for the door. Wedding emergency. I found Amy waiting in her car around the corner, practically vibrating with excitement. You're not going to believe what Preston told me. What did you get? She pulled out her phone and played a video. Preston's slightly intoxicated face filled the screen as he lounged in what looked like a bar. Mark's a genius, you know? Preston slurred, clearly comfortable with Amy behind the camera. The way he worked it with Jessica in Seattle, then Maria in Boston. But Mallory's the big one. He says the others were just practice runs. My hands clenched into fists. There's more than 3? 5, apparently, Amy said grimly. And get this, he has a whole system. He keeps spreadsheets tracking their family's net worth, business holdings, everything. Spreadsheets? I laughed bitterly. He's been mocking me for being obsessed with numbers while he's been running his own twisted accounting? There's something else. Amy hesitated. Kaya. She knew about Maria. She met Mark during that con. The pieces clicked into place. Kaya's constant presence, her subtle digs, her watching Mark. She's known all along? Preston says she helped him get introduced to our family. My phone buzzed again. Mark asking where I'd gone. I took a deep breath. Send that video to Noelle. We're going to need it for the final cut. Back at the florist's, I found Mark in deep conversation with Kaya. They broke apart as soon as they saw me. Everything okay, sweetheart? Mark asked, wrapping an arm around my waist. I leaned into him, watching Kaya's face. Perfect. Just finalizing some surprise details for our special day. Surprises? Kaya's smile wavered. How mysterious. That evening, during dinner at Mark's apartment, I decided to test the waters. I ran into Maria today, I said casually, watching his reflection in the window. His hand paused halfway to his wine glass. Maria? From Boston? She's in town for a conference. I took a sip of wine. She said she knew you. Mark recovered quickly, his smile sliding back into place. Oh, right. We dated briefly years ago. Didn't work out. That's not how she tells it. I met his eyes. She said you were engaged. Engaged? He laughed, but I caught the tension in his shoulders. Hardly. We talked about it, but I knew she wasn't the one. He reached across the table for my hand. Not like you. I forced myself to smile, to squeeze his hand back. I'm so lucky to have found you. Later that night, I met Noelle at her editing studio. She'd been working on the wedding video, carefully crafting 2 versions. The public one full of sweet messages and romantic moments, and the real one. Watch this, she said, playing a sequence of clips. On screen, Preston's drunken confession played, followed by carefully edited segments of Mark's conversations over the past 2 weeks. Little slips, subtle reveals, all building a damning picture. It's still not enough, I said. We need him to incriminate himself directly. What about Kaya? Noelle suggested. If she's been helping him. No. I shook my head. I have something better in mind. The rehearsal dinner is next week, and Preston always drinks too much at formal events. You're going to get him talking again? Better. I pulled out my phone and dialed Amy. We're going to get them both talking. Amy, remember how you said Preston has a crush on you? Time to use that. As I drove home that night, I thought about Maria in Boston, Jessica in Seattle, and all the other women Mark had conned. Each one probably thought they were special, chosen, loved. Each one had planned their perfect day, just like I was pretending to do now. But unlike them, I wasn't going to let Mark walk away with anything except the knowledge that he'd finally conned the wrong woman, the wrong family. And in 1 week, at our rehearsal dinner, I'd begin the final act of this charade. The rehearsal dinner was in full swing at the Grand Plaza Hotel when Amy put our plan into motion. I watched from across the room as she cornered Preston near the bar, champagne in hand and camera discreetly recording from her clutch. You know, she said, loud enough for me to hear. I've always wondered how you and Mark became such good friends. Preston's face lit up at the attention. 3 drinks in, and he was already loose-lipped. Oh man, that's a great story. We met in Seattle, actually, during the Jessica situation. Jessica situation? Yeah, before he perfected his, Preston glanced around conspiratorially. His approach. I pretended to be engrossed in my mother's chatter about table settings while straining to hear their conversation. Mom, I interrupted. Have you seen Mark? He should hear these ideas too. He's out on the terrace with Kaya, she said. Something about wedding gift arrangements. My stomach tightened, but I kept my smile fixed. I'll go get him. I moved toward the terrace doors, but stopped short when I heard their voices. You're playing with fire, Kaya was saying. Mallory's not stupid. Please, Mark scoffed. She's so wrapped up in wedding details she can't see straight. Besides, you're not backing out now, are you? Not when we're so close. The commission you promised me will be yours as soon as the ink dries on the marriage certificate. 20% of everything I get, just like we agreed. I pulled out my phone, hitting record. Finally, the smoking gun I needed. And what about the others? Kaya asked. Maria's been asking questions. Maria's ancient history. They all are. This is the big one, Kaya. The Montgomery fortune. It's different. Mallory? My mother's voice behind me made me jump. What are you doing, sweetheart? I quickly pocketed my phone. Just getting some air, Mom. Mark and Kaya emerged from the terrace, all smiles. There's my beautiful bride, Mark said, kissing my cheek. Your mother's been looking for you. Actually, I said, Preston was just telling Amy the most interesting story about Seattle. I watched Mark's face carefully, catching the flash of panic before his smooth mask slipped back into place. Seattle? Must have been ages ago. It was, Preston called out, stumbling over with Amy. Right after the Jessica thing. Mark's hand tightened on my waist. Preston, you're drunk. Maybe you should call it a night. No, let him finish, I said sweetly. I'd love to hear about Jessica. There's nothing to tell, Mark said firmly. Nothing except the ring. Preston laughed. Remember? The one she had to sell after you... Preston! Mark's voice cut through the room like a whip. Several guests turned to look. My mother frowned. Is everything all right? Fine, Mom, I said. Just wedding jitters making everyone emotional. Speaking of emotional, Kaya stepped in smoothly. Mallory, have you decided about the prenup? The lawyers were asking. I met her gaze steadily. Actually, I have some interesting clauses I'd like to discuss about prior relationships and undisclosed assets. The color drained from both their faces. Maybe we should discuss this privately. Mark suggested, steering me toward a quiet corner. Why? I asked innocently. I thought we had no secrets. Before he could respond, Noelle appeared with her camera. Time for some candid shots. Mark, could you tell us about when you first knew Mallory was the one? Mark's practiced smile returned. Of course. The moment I met her, I knew she was special. Special like Maria? I murmured, just loud enough for him to hear. Or special like Jessica? His smile froze. Excuse us, he said to Noelle. I need a moment with my fiancé. He led me to a private alcove, his grip on my arm just tight enough to hurt. What game are you playing? Game? I pulled away. I thought that was your specialty. Mallory. Don't. I straightened my dress. We both have roles to play tonight, don't we? The loving couple, counting down to their perfect day? Understanding dawned in his eyes. How long have you known? Long enough. I smiled, channeling his own brand of calculated charm. But don't worry, darling, the show must go on. I walked back to the party, leaving him standing there. Amy caught my eye across the room and nodded. She'd gotten everything on camera. Is everything okay? My mother asked as I rejoined her. You and Mark seem tense. Everything's perfect, Mom. I watched Mark whisper urgently to Kaya in the corner. Just wedding day jitters, like I said. After all, I raised my voice slightly, making sure they could hear. I want our wedding day to be unforgettable. And as I watched them squirm, I knew it would be. Just not in the way they expected. You still love him, don't you? Noelle asked as we sat in my apartment, surrounded by wedding favors I was supposed to be assembling. 3 days until the wedding, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Of course not, I snapped, but the crack in my voice betrayed me. Mallory. Amy set down the ribbon she was cutting. It's okay if part of you still cares. I picked up a crystal wedding bell, turning it over in my hands. I keep thinking about our first date. He took me to that tiny Italian restaurant, remembered I was allergic to shellfish, quoted my favorite book. My voice caught. Was any of it real? Stop torturing yourself, Noelle said. He's a con artist. Making people fall in love with him is his job. My phone buzzed. Another message from Mark. They'd been coming more frequently since the rehearsal dinner, each one more desperate than the last. Please talk to me, this one read. I can explain everything. He knows I'm onto him, I said, showing them the message. But he's still trying to salvage the con. Or maybe he's actually scared of losing you, Amy suggested gently. I threw the wedding bell across the room. It shattered against the wall, crystalline pieces scattering across the floor. Don't make excuses for him. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. Through the peephole, I saw Mark standing there, looking disheveled. Nothing like his usual polished self. I know you're in there, he called out. Please, just 5 minutes. Amy and Noelle looked at me questioningly. I nodded and they quietly slipped into the bedroom. I opened the door. It's late, Mark. I know. He stepped inside, running a hand through his hair. I know about the video messages. Preston told me what you've been doing. My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. And what exactly have I been doing? Digging into my past. Talking to Maria, asking about Jessica. He moved closer. But you don't understand. Don't I? The spreadsheets tracking family wealth, the practice proposals, the way you and Kaya planned everything? He flinched. How did you... I heard you. I cut in. At the engagement party, you and Preston on the terrace laughing about your long con. Understanding washed over his face. Mallory, please, did you ever love me? The question burst out before I could stop it. Was any of it real? He reached for my hand, and for a moment I let him take it. It started as a con, he admitted, but somewhere along the way it became real. You became real. Stop lying. I pulled away. You're only saying this because I caught you. I'm saying it because it's true. He grabbed my shoulders. Yes, I targeted you for your family's money. Yes, I planned everything. but I didn't plan on falling in love with your laugh or the way you scrunch your nose when you're focused or how you always smell like vanilla and coffee. Tears burned in my eyes. Don't. Remember our trip to the coast? When we got caught in that storm and had to spend the night in that awful motel? That wasn't part of the con. The way you made me laugh until my sides hurt. How we stayed up all night talking. That was real. For a moment, I wavered. The memory of that night was so vivid. The rain hammering against the windows, sharing vending machine snacks, feeling like we were the only two people in the world. Then I remembered Preston's video. The others were just practice runs. Get out, I whispered. Mallory, get out. I shoved him toward the door. The wedding is in 3 days. If you want to keep up appearances, fine. But don't pretend you feel anything real for me. He stopped in the doorway, his face haunted. What are you planning? I smiled through my tears. You'll find out, along with everyone else. After he left, Amy and Noelle emerged from the bedroom. Amy wrapped her arms around me as I finally broke down. He's good, Noelle said, watching me cry. Really good. I know. I wiped my eyes. That's what makes him dangerous. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Amy asked. We could just expose him now, call off the wedding. No. I straightened up, steel returning to my spine. He wanted to make this public, wanted everyone to witness our perfect love story. So that's exactly what they're going to get. I walked to my laptop and opened the video file we'd been compiling. Noelle, is the final cut ready? She nodded. Just needs your approval. Good, I started typing. Because I have a few more additions to make. As I worked into the night, I kept remembering that storm-swept evening at the motel. Real or not, it didn't matter anymore. In 3 days, I would show Mark, and everyone else, exactly what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. And this time, I wouldn't let my heart get in the way. The night before my wedding, I sat alone in my childhood bedroom, staring at my reflection in the vanity mirror. My wedding dress hung by the window, pristine and white, a perfect symbol of the lie I'd been living. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Come in. My mother entered, carrying 2 cups of tea. I thought you might need this. She sat beside me just like she used to when I was little. Cold feet? Something like that. You know, she said, stirring her tea, the night before I married your father, I almost ran away. This was news to me. You did? Packed a bag and everything. She smiled at the memory. I was terrified of making the wrong choice. But then your father showed up at my window with a handful of daisies and that goofy smile of his, and I knew. Knew what? That sometimes the scariest choices are the right ones. She squeezed my hand. Mark looks at you the same way your father looked at me. My throat tightened. Mom. My phone buzzed. A message from Noelle. Final cut ready. Are you sure about this? I should get some sleep, I said, standing abruptly. Mom kissed my forehead. Everything will be perfect tomorrow. After she left, I texted back, do it. Minutes later, my phone rang. Mark. Don't do this, he said without preamble. Do what? Whatever you're planning. His voice was raw. Please, Mallory, we can talk about this. Like you talked to Maria? Or Jessica? I told you that was different. Save it for tomorrow. I cut him off. I'm sure everyone will love hearing your explanations. I love you, he said suddenly. I know you don't believe me, but... I hung up, hands shaking. Seconds later, another text came through. Check your email. Against my better judgment, I opened it. There was a video attachment. Security footage from that coastal motel, dated 18 months ago. I pressed play. There we were, running through the rain, laughing. Mark giving me his jacket, my makeup smeared, both of us soaked to the bone. The timestamp showed 2 a.m. Us sitting in the hallway, sharing vending machine snacks, talking for hours. Another text? I called in a favor to get this. Look at how I'm looking at you. That's not acting. I closed the email and called Amy. He's trying to stop me, I said when she answered. Are you having second thoughts? No. I paused. Maybe. I don't know. Want me to come over? No, I need to handle this myself. I took a deep breath. Is everything set for tomorrow? Noelle has the video ready. The projector's been tested. Even got the audio system checked twice. And Kaya? Still doesn't suspect anything. She thinks she's giving a regular maid of honor speech. I walked to the window, looking out at the garden where tomorrow's ceremony would take place. Workers were already setting up chairs, stringing lights through the trees. Did you know he kept security footage from our trip to the coast? Amy was quiet for a moment. Mal, don't do this to yourself. What if we're wrong? What if... Stop. Amy's voice turned firm. Remember what Preston said about Maria? How she lost everything? Remember the spreadsheets tracking our family's wealth? I remember. Then remember this. Real love doesn't come with a profit margin. After we hung up, I pulled out the evidence we'd gathered. Screenshots of Mark's spreadsheets, Preston's drunken confessions, the recordings of Mark and Kaya plotting. Laid out like this, it was damning. My phone buzzed again. Mark. Remember when you got food poisoning and I stayed up all night reading to you? Remember our first Christmas when I learned to make your grandmother's cookies? Those moments were real. I started typing a response, then deleted it. Instead, I pulled up the video we'd prepared for tomorrow. Watching it again, seeing all the evidence laid out, hearing Mark's own words about his con, I felt my resolve strengthen. One final text came through. Whatever you're planning, just know that falling in love with you wasn't part of my plan. It just happened, and it's the most real thing in my life. I turned off my phone and got into bed, still wearing my robe. Tomorrow, I would put on that white dress. I would walk down the aisle, and I would show everyone exactly who Mark really was. But as I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help wondering which would hurt more. Exposing his lies or discovering that somewhere in all of this, there might have been a grain of truth. The wedding march played as I stood at the entrance to the garden, my father's arm linked with mine. 200 guests turned to watch, phones raised to capture the moment. Mark waited at the altar, handsome in his tuxedo, wearing that practiced smile I'd grown to hate. Ready, sweetheart? Dad whispered. I nodded, clutching my bouquet tighter. In the front row, Amy caught my eye and gave a subtle nod. Everything was in place. Each step down the aisle felt like an eternity. Kaya stood with the other bridesmaids, beaming with false sincerity. Preston shifted uncomfortably beside Mark, tugging at his collar. He'd been avoiding eye contact with everyone since arriving. I reached the altar, and Mark took my hands in his. You look beautiful, he whispered, and for a split second I saw genuine fear in his eyes. The minister began the ceremony. Dearly beloved, I let his words wash over me, watching Mark's face. He squeezed my hands, pleading silently. I squeezed back, probably harder than necessary. And now, the minister said, before the formal vows, the couple has prepared a special video presentation celebrating their journey together. Mark's head snapped up. This wasn't in the program. What are you doing? He hissed through his smile. Showing everyone our journey, I whispered back. Every single step of it. The large screen behind the altar flickered to life. It started innocently enough. Photos of us together, clips from parties and vacations. Mark relaxed slightly. Then Preston's drunken confession began playing. Mark's a genius, you know? The way he worked it with Jessica in Seattle, then Maria in Boston. The audience murmured. Mark's grip on my hands turned painful. The video continued. Carefully edited clips of Mark and Kaya plotting, surveillance footage of their secret meetings, screenshots of his spreadsheets tracking wealthy families. Stop this, Mark growled. Why? I pulled my hands away. Isn't this what you wanted? An audience for your greatest performance? Gasps rippled through the crowd as Mark's own voice played over the speakers. The Montgomery fortune isn't going to inherit itself. Mallory. My mother stood up. What is this? The truth, Mom. I turned to address the guests. Mark here isn't just a con artist, he's a professional. and I'm not his first target. Kaya tried to slip away, but Amy blocked her path. Oh no, cousin. You're part of this show too. The video showed their conversation from the rehearsal dinner, discussing their commission split. Someone in the audience shouted, "Is that Maria?" I spotted her in the crowd. I'd made sure she and the other women Mark had conned received invitations. "This is ridiculous," Mark announced, trying to take control. "Mallory's just nervous." Nervous? I laughed. "No, Mark, I'm angry. And so are Jessica, Maria, and all the other women you've conned. Did you really think we wouldn't find each other? Compare notes?" Preston started backing away, but security guards, hired specifically for this moment, blocked the exits. "You want to know the funny thing?" I continued, my voice carrying across the now silent garden. "You were right about one thing. I am good with spreadsheets. Good enough to trace every dollar you stole, every investment you made with other women's money. The police have been very interested in those records," Amy added helpfully. Mark's composure finally cracked. "You don't understand," he pleaded. "Yes, it started as a con, but I really do love—" "Save it." I held up my phone, playing his conversation with Preston about the long con. "I think we've all heard enough about your version of love." Chaos erupted. Security detained Mark and Preston as they tried to flee. Kaya burst into tears, confessing everything to the shocked guests. My mother was shouting. My father was on the phone with our lawyers, and through it all, I stood calmly at the altar. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced over the commotion, "I'm sorry you won't be witnessing a wedding today, but you have witnessed justice." As the police arrived, right on schedule, I walked back down the aisle, head held high. Amy fell into step beside me, and Noelle appeared with a bottle of champagne. "That," Noelle said, "was better than any wedding I've ever seen." "Are you okay?" Amy asked softly. I looked back at the chaos one last time. Mark caught my eye as the police led him away. For a moment, I saw that same look from the coastal motel, and my heart twisted. Then I remembered all the other women he'd given that same look to, and the pain turned to strength. "I'm better than okay," I said, taking the champagne. "I'm free." We clinked glasses as sirens wailed in the background. Not exactly the wedding day I'd planned, but definitely one no one would ever forget. The sunset painted the courthouse steps orange as I walked out of Mark's sentencing hearing. 7 years for fraud, with additional charges pending. Justice had been served, but the hollow feeling in my chest remained. "Hey," Amy jogged up beside me. "Want to get a drink?" "Actually," I said, "there's somewhere else I need to be." I drove to the small Italian restaurant where Mark and I had our first date. Inside, 3 women were waiting at a corner table: Maria, Jessica, and Lauren, Mark's previous targets. "Sorry I'm late," I said, sliding into an empty chair. The sentencing ran long. "How many years did he get?" Maria asked. 7, plus he has to pay restitution to all of us." Jessica snorted. "Money we'll never see." "Actually," I pulled out a folder. "That's why I wanted to meet. I've been doing some creative accounting." Lauren leaned forward. "What kind of creative accounting?" "The kind that found Mark's hidden accounts." I spread out the documents. "He wasn't as clever as he thought. Every investment he made with your money left a trail. And now that he's been convicted, we can claim it all." Maria's eyes widened as she looked at the figures. "This is everything he stole, plus interest." I smiled. Being a CFO has its advantages. "I don't know what to say," Jessica whispered. "Say you'll help me with something else." I pulled out another folder. "I've been thinking about starting a foundation. Something to help other women spot and avoid romance scams." "Using Mark's own money?" Lauren grinned. "That's poetic justice." My phone buzzed. A text from Kaya, begging to meet. After turning state's evidence, she'd avoided prison time, but was now persona non grata in our social circles. "Still getting messages?" Maria asked, noticing my expression. "She wants to make amends." I put the phone away. But some bridges stay burned. Speaking of burned bridges, Jessica said carefully. I heard Mark's been writing to you. Daily. I sighed. Each letter more desperate than the last. Do you read them? I did. Once. I thought about the last letter, his messy handwriting claiming that every lie was wrapped around a core of truth. Then I realized something. We all probably got similar letters. The others nodded. He wrote to me for months after I caught him. Lauren confirmed. Same here, Maria added. Always about how I was different, special. That's why this foundation matters, I said. Because somewhere right now, another Mark is targeting another woman. But maybe we can help her see the signs before she ends up at a fake wedding. To karma, Jessica raised her glass. And to the women who serve it. We clinked glasses, and for the first time since the wedding day, I felt truly light. Later, walking back to my car, I found Preston leaning against it. Before you call security, he said quickly, I want to help. Help with what? Your foundation. I know how Mark operated, how he picked his targets. That information could be valuable. I studied him. Why the change of heart? Because watching you take him down made me realize I helped hurt a lot of people. He pulled out a notebook. I kept records of everything. Names, dates, strategies. It's yours if you want it. I took the notebook. This doesn't make up for what you did. I know. He turned to leave, then paused. He really did love you, you know. That's why he got sloppy, left trails. You made him forget his own rules. Love doesn't excuse what he did. No, Preston agreed. But maybe knowing it was real makes it easier to move forward. As he walked away, I opened the notebook. Pages of detailed notes on Mark's schemes stared back at me. Knowledge that could help countless women avoid the same trap. My phone buzzed again. Another letter from Mark had arrived at the office. This time, I deleted the notification without hesitation. Whether his love had been real or not didn't matter anymore. What mattered was what I chose to do with the aftermath. I drove back to the office where Amy and Noelle were waiting with takeout and foundation paperwork. Ready to change some lives? Noelle asked. I looked at the women around me, my sister, my best friend, and through the window I could see Maria and the others arriving for our first official foundation meeting. You know what? I said, opening Preston's notebook. I think I am. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It's about building something stronger from the ruins they left behind. And as I watched our small army of survivors gather, I knew we were building something unbreakable.